There's something sacred about the open road. The hum of engines, the smell of asphalt warmed by the sun, and the wind pushing against your chest as you ride, nothing compares. We were a tight-knit group of riders who called ourselves the Iron Roamers. Not a gang, not outlaws, just a crew of middle-aged Americans who shared a love for bikes and the road. That morning, the sun rose over the Colorado Rockies, casting golden light across the landscape. We had a dozen riders, men and women, husbands and wives, friends from different walks of life. There was Hank, our unofficial leader, a retired firefighter with a gray beard and a booming voice. Lucy and Carl, high school sweethearts still in love after 3 decades. Danny, the class clown of the group. And me, Jack Taylor, a high school history teacher on summer break, riding my old Harley Softail like it was brand new. We were headed west through the mountains, planning to reach a small town near Glenwood Springs by evening. No rush, just the thrill of the ride, scenic overlooks, and the steady comfort of shared silence between roars of the engine. The sky was clear, the weather perfect. The bikes were tuned. None of us had the faintest clue how close we'd come to disaster or how incredibly lucky we were about to be. Around midday, we pulled over at a scenic overlook high above a winding river. The view stretched for miles, endless trees, a ribbon of water below, and peaks layered with snow in the far distance. Lucy snapped pictures while Carl wiped down his chrome fenders. Danny tossed a football with Hank's teenage son, Mikey, who was tagging along in a support van driven by Hank's wife, Janet. I leaned on a rock and took it all in. It was the kind of stop you remember years later, not for what happened, but for how peaceful it felt. We climbed back on our bikes and rode into a narrow canyon pass. The road curved like a snake, hugging cliffs that loomed high on one side and dropped off steeply on the other. Trees gave way to exposed rock. Guardrails stood like silver ribs along the edge, the only thing between us and a long fall into the valley below. It was the kind of road that demanded attention. One wrong move, and you'd be in serious trouble. That's when it happened. It started with a sound. A deep roar of a heavy engine, followed by the unmistakable screech of tires on loose gravel. I didn't see it all unfold. I was 3 bikes back, but I heard it. A large RV was coming fast around a blind curve. Too fast. The driver must have panicked. Maybe he hit the brakes too late. Maybe he didn't realize how tight the bend was. Hank was in the lead. I saw him jerk his handlebars sharply, trying to avoid the massive vehicle. His back tire slid dangerously close to the edge. Danny, right behind him, slammed on his brakes and swerved hard. Lucy let out a scream behind me. Chaos. Sudden, sharp, heart-pounding chaos. Time slowed. I felt my tires lose grip for a split second before finding it again. I swerved left to avoid Carl, who had braked hard to avoid Lucy. She nearly hit the guardrail, her back tire skidded out, but Carl reached out with his left hand and grabbed her shoulder, steadying her mid-ride. Somehow, impossibly, she didn't go down. The RV scraped the rock wall on its right side, sparks flying like fireworks. It screeched to a halt about 50 feet ahead, partly in our lane. Dust billowed around it in thick clouds. One by one. We pulled over onto the gravel shoulder, engines idling low, hearts thudding in our chests. No one spoke. Not right away. I remember staring at my gloves gripping the handlebars, trying to convince myself we were still upright, that none of us had gone over the edge, that I wasn't dreaming. Hank was already off his bike, rushing to check on Danny, who had come dangerously close to losing control. "You okay?" he asked, crouching beside him. Danny nodded, pale and wide-eyed. Yeah, I'm okay." That was close. Lucy was trembling as Carl helped her off her bike. "That was too close," she said, tears running silently down her cheeks. Janet pulled up in the van moments later, parking it carefully on the shoulder. Mikey jumped out and ran over to his dad. He looked frightened but calm. We gathered in a loose circle, still dazed, every one of us in shock that we had just escaped what should have been a serious accident. No one was injured. Not a scratch. Not a single bike laid down. It felt unreal. The RV driver stepped out, his face ashen. He was a gray-haired man in his 60s, wearing a Hawaiian shirt and cargo shorts. He looked at us, clearly shaken. "I didn't see the curve," he said, his voice cracking. "Lost control. I'm so sorry. Is everyone all right?" Hank didn't yell. He didn't curse or blame. He just nodded slowly, exhaling deeply. "Yeah," he said. "We're all right." Somehow. He turned back to us and scanned every face. We were all standing, all breathing. The bikes had survived. It was a miracle. An hour later, state troopers arrived. We gave our statements while the RV driver explained what happened. According to him, he'd been descending the canyon too fast, distracted by the view, and hit a patch of gravel while braking. The investigation showed no signs of alcohol or drug use, just a mistake made in the wrong place at the wrong time. After everything was sorted out, we rode to the next town and found a small diner on the edge of a pine forest. We sat at a long booth in the back, ordering coffee and burgers. The food wasn't fancy, but it tasted better than any meal I could remember. The relief hung over us like a blanket. There was laughter, soft at first, then louder. Someone made a joke about the RV, and even Lucy cracked a smile. Mikey looked up at me after we ate and said, "You guys were awesome back there." I smiled at the kid. "We got lucky, that's all." "No," he said. "You were ready." That stuck with me. It rang true in a way that felt deeper than the moment. We weren't superheroes. We weren't thrill seekers. But we knew how to ride. We respected the road. We stayed calm. And that made the difference. That night, we found a small motel near the river. It was nothing fancy, wooden cabins, creaky doors, beds with stiff mattresses, but it was perfect. Behind the cabins was a fire pit surrounded by folding chairs and logs. We gathered around it, passing a guitar, roasting marshmallows, and sharing stories long into the night. No one tried to pretend the day hadn't shaken them. Danny admitted his legs had gone numb when he saw the RV. Carl confessed he thought he'd lost Lucy when her bike skidded. Hank told Mikey he was proud of how he handled the fear. We didn't talk about what could have happened. We talked about what did happen, how we stayed up, how we looked out for each other, how we didn't panic. It wasn't just about skill. It was about trust. As the fire crackled and the stars came out, we sat in silence for a while. Not the awkward kind. The kind of silence you share with people who mean something to you. People you'd ride through storms for. People you'd swerve for. Eventually, Carl started picking at the guitar strings. Lucy sang an old country tune, her voice quiet and clear. Danny passed around a thermos of coffee. Mikey leaned against his dad's side, already dozing off. It was peace. Honest peace. We all knew we'd ride again in the morning. That the road would keep winding, the sun would rise, and the engines would roar once more. And we knew, because of what we'd been through, that we'd be ready.